On December 12th, 1939, at 9:04 a.m., a Soviet patrol of 15 men pushed through a frozen forest in Finland. The temperature was 40 below zero. Their heavy wool coats were stiff as armor, their breath turning to instant ice on their scarves. They were soldiers of the largest army on earth, the invincible Red Army of Joseph Stalin, sent to crush a nation of farmers in a war that was supposed to last 10 days. They were confident. They were loud. Their equipment clanked against the silence. They saw no one. They were wrong. The first shot came like a whisper. A sharp crack swallowed instantly by the snow. The man at the back of the patrol simply fell. No explosion, no scream, just gone. The lieutenant spun around. Nothing. Only stillness. 3 seconds later, the second shot. 200 meters ahead, his radio man folded to the ground. This time, the lieutenant heard the faint hiss of the bullet just before impact. Panic erupted. The patrol dove into the snow, but the snow was no cover. It was a kill zone. A machine gunner slumped over his weapon. A sergeant pointing orders collapsed backward. In under 3 minutes, 12 men were dead. The 3 survivors didn't run. They lay frozen in the snow for 4 hours, praying they wouldn't be next. When they finally crawled back to their lines, their report made no sense. No muzzle flash. No sound of a sniper team. No tracks. No hint of where the shots came from. It was a ghost. Belaya Smirt. The White Death. But the Red Army was wrong. This ghost wasn't supernatural. He was a 33-year-old farmer, 5'3", quiet, ordinary. A man who had just declared a one-man war against an empire, using a trick so simple, it would change the rules of modern warfare. This is the story of Simo Häyhä and the forgotten modifications that made him the deadliest sniper in human history. To understand how one farmer crippled an army, you have to understand the war, a true David versus Goliath. In November of 1939, Joseph Stalin demanded land, islands, and bases from Finland. The Finns, led by Marshal Mannerheim, refused. Furious, Stalin staged a fake Finnish attack, the shelling of Manila, and invaded. The mismatch was absurd. 1 million Soviet soldiers versus 300,000 Finnish militia. 6,000 Soviet tanks versus 32 Finnish tanks. 3,000 Soviet aircraft versus 114 Finnish planes. Experts around the world declared Finland doomed. But the Soviets made the same mistake every invader makes. They looked at the numbers, not the terrain. They were invading in the deepest winter and into a country that was 70% forest. The Finns had a word, Sisu, a cold, unbreakable determination. They knew they couldn't win a conventional war, so they didn't fight one. They used the forests, the frozen lakes, and the cold itself as weapons. Ski troops, dressed in white, slipped behind Soviet lines, cut columns into isolated pockets, and let the winter finish the job. Into this nightmare stepped a quiet farmer, Simo Häyhä. Simo wasn't a career soldier. He was a farmer and an award-winning marksman. When war came, he grabbed his rifle, a Finnish M28-30, a variant of the Mosin Nagant with standard iron sights. His officers offered him a scoped rifle. Simo refused. To his commanders, it seemed insane. But Simo understood the cold better than any manual. He knew 3 things that sniper schools hadn't learned yet. Scopes glint. One flash in the winter sun meant death. Scopes fog instantly in extreme cold. Scopes force a sniper to raise his head higher, making him a bigger target. Iron sights didn't glint, didn't fog, and let him stay nearly invisible. That was his first illegal modification. But the others were even smarter. Soviet snipers looked for 2 giveaways: muzzle blast kicking snow and breath vapor hanging in the air. Simo erased both. He packed the snow in front of his rifle and poured water over it, creating a frozen block that absorbed his muzzle blast. And he kept a mouthful of snow, cooling his breath before he exhaled. No fog, no cloud, no signal. He had removed every sign that a human was hunting them. Simo Häyhä had become a ghost. Every day, before dawn, he'd ski deep into no man's land, find a rise or a fallen log, build his frozen nest, put snow in his mouth, and wait. Hours passed. The cold seeped into his bones. Most men would shiver. Simo didn't. And when the enemy appeared, he never fired from the same spot twice. He'd shoot, ski 100 meters, shoot again. At first, the Finnish officers didn't believe his kill reports. 12 kills in a day? Impossible. So, they sent an observer. The observer came back pale and confirmed every shot. On December 21st, Simo killed 25 soldiers. On December 22nd, 23. On Christmas Day, 38. One man was freezing an entire Soviet division in place. Fear spread like wildfire. Soldiers refused to leave bunkers. Officers stopped lighting fires. Entire units ground to a halt. The White Death was everywhere and nowhere. The Red Army responded with everything they had. First, elite sniper teams. Simo killed them all. Then, massive artillery barrages. One day, more than 100 shells hit his position. He walked away with only shrapnel wounds. Finally, a full platoon, 30 elite counter-snipers, sent with one mission: kill Simo Häyhä. Simo ambushed them. By the next morning, Finnish patrols found 27 bodies. The White Death wasn't just a sniper. He was a psychological weapon. Soviet diaries described him as a terror of silence. Mother, this is not war. This is hell. Here, silence means he is watching. Pavel, 75th Rifle Division. The fear was destroying the Red Army from the inside. By March 1940, Simo had 505 confirmed sniper kills, plus over 200 more with his submachine gun. The deadliest soldier in history. But on March 6th, during a massive Soviet assault, a counter-sniper fired an explosive round. It struck Simo in the face. The bullet entered his left cheek, detonated in his mouth, shattered his jaw, tore away his cheek, and blew apart half his face. His comrades thought he was dead. They placed him on a pile of corpses, but a soldier noticed a twitch. Simo Häyhä was still alive. He was evacuated, unconscious, as the Winter War ended. His face required 26 surgeries. Doctors rebuilt his jaw with bone from his hip. It took years to heal. He survived. The legend lived. Finland lost territory, but the Red Army was humiliated. Their catastrophic performance was noticed in Berlin. Hitler watched the USSR's failure in Finland and concluded the Soviet Union was a weak, rotten state that would collapse easily. After recovering, Simo wanted to rejoin the army. They refused. His injuries were too severe. So he went home. He spent the next 50 years as a farmer, a hunter, and a breeder of dogs. A quiet man, a humble man. Reporters asked if he regretted killing so many. He said only, "I did what I was told to do, and I did it as well as I could." When asked the secret to his success, at 92 years old, he answered with one word: practice. Simo Häyhä, the White Death, died in 2002 at the age of 96. The deadliest sniper who ever lived. Many historians argue, if the Red Army had not been exposed by the Winter War, Hitler might never have invaded. Simo Häyhä's invisible war had changed history. If you found this story compelling, please like this video. Subscribe for more forgotten stories of World War II, stories that deserve to be remembered. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Our community spans the world, and you're part of it. Thank you for keeping history alive.